A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back once again to HJN Season 5. As you probably know by now, this is of course the usual regimen that we've been doing for the past few weeks. We of course have been talking about various franchises that have been around for a good amount of time. And now that we're on to another one, we're going to go on ahead and say that if you remember back when we were talking about The Simpsons, we of course have ourselves something similar to it, but of course was more of a bitter rival to The Simpsons. Family Guy. Yeah, so basically speaking, Family Guy is very much like that of The Simpsons, except for the fact that it has similar things to The Simpsons, but not everything's alike. You see, they might have a family of several members in which you had 5 members in The Simpsons, unless you want to count Santa's Little Helper. And then of course you have Family Guy with 6, including a dog. So, between The Simpsons and the Family Guy, with both of them having up to 6 members in the family, the main protagonistic characters of the franchise, and of course, the many jobs that are seen by one of our main protagonists. Between Homer Simpson and Family Guy's Peter Griffin, you of course have Homer doing his job at a nuclear power plant. But what Family Guy does is Peter, of course, exude his drunkenness by going to a brewery, Pawtucket Patriot Ale, in which that he is able to primarily be a sales rep for the likes of the brewery itself. He, of course, was originally demoted to the shipping department after he would do some work where he got free beer, but couldn't really control his drunken behavior. So they demoted him to said position where he would show up at 7 a.m. sharp every day, and moreover, would have a number of things that would sort of make his work life be a little crappy. In any other case, though, Seth MacFarlane was more or less visualized and, of course, inspired by The Simpsons to create his own cartoon with the similar sort of things in mind when it comes to the kind of family matters and the dysfunctional lifestyle that they end up having. A number of differences, though, can be spotted in terms of what Family Guy and The Simpsons are. One of the biggest differences is the fact that, apart from when The Family Guy showed up at first in 1999, whereas The Simpsons debuted in 1989, a 10-year difference between each other, one of the main things that happens in Family Guy, a recurring gag if you will, is known as the cutaway. The cutaway gags are similar in a way to how one would describe such things like similes, metaphors, or even flat-out analogies as being put through a visual identification. Then, of course, there were plenty of other iterations and things that would show up, plenty of jokes that either correlated to things that are sexual, or televised broadcasts, or even political things. In fact, the shared political stuff that goes on Family Guy, it happens a lot, even to this day. But then, of course, we gotta really talk about the kind of things that really set the tone apart from what The Simpsons had to offer. While The Simpsons does have a few lighthearted jokes that somewhat feel a bit repetitive after they've been done many times over in the last 30 plus years or so, with Family Guy, some of the jokes that they utter are usually out of disrespect, mishaste, dishonesty, racism, fascism, misogyny, or even anything deathly. So, these kind of jokes, while impressively dark as compared to The Simpsons, Family Guy might as well have a black heart, by all accounts. And that's just not talking about the fact that there were plenty of episodes that correlated to people actually getting killed, or whether they were mutilated or maimed as a form of some sort of laughs. Yeah, a form of laughs that unfortunately didn't go very far in many ways. And you probably would want to know why. Because Family Guy, S-U-C-K-S. I would say since 2016, that's probably where the real big cutoff would be, because I've always felt like that the episode in which that Carter takes care of the kids and shows them how to have fun his way without all those electronics interfering with their brains, eventually leading to them having the conclusion of how their imagination allows them to have their own personal entertainment. So, that was a real big episode, and a pretty good one, I will say. To cap things off with that one in particular, might be a bit of a sudden move. But if any case though, The Simpsons could have really ended a little differently as well. I mentioned that Orange is the New Yellow would have been the true ending for the franchise in May of 2016, in which Marge gets put in jail for 90 days after failing to take care of Bart and supervise him at the park. And with Family Guy, I feel like their ending could have been done at around the same time. If not any later or earlier after mid-2015, I will say that that probably could have been the true ending of the franchise. In both ways, though, I feel like that a true ending for both franchises, considering that they were long-lasting and long-running, even to this day, the real ending of the franchises would go something like this, alright? A gathering of all characters, and I mean every single one of them, in the town of Quahog, Rhode Island, where the Family Guy show takes place in, and in Springfield, which, is it still Massachusetts or is it Illinois? Because accents are very similar to Illinois natives, whereas we do have a few moments in The Simpsons in which they go to Boston, which apparently is a drive away. And we know there's a Springfield in both states for that reason. But gathering all the characters, waving goodbye to the viewer, would be a perfect way to end both franchises. Granted, Family Guy and Simpsons don't have to do the exact same thing, and I'm sure they could even collab with each other, as there's been a few instances that they have come together. An entire episode crossed over between both franchises. And we saw what Stewie did. I mean, he captured all of Bart's nemesis and had them all tied up inside the garage. So, pretty horrifying when you think about it. A baby just captures all of Bart's nemesis. Even Apu was among the group. Just for some sort of dookie joke. No joke. A dookie joke. Like, in addition to being full-on racism of Apu's own name, I mean, they could do a lot worse than that, right? Well, maybe not. Because it's already bad enough that a baby kidnaps a bunch of people and locks them up in the garage, having Bart open it up to reveal who they are. But any other way you look at it, though, it's probably for the best that they don't collaborate again. Whether it's for that reason or otherwise, I'd say both Simpsons and Family Guy could have ended, and I mean shouldn't have ended, at some point in the mid-2010s. Because interest truly declined by that point. And now, after 10 years, it seems that it's around the same level. There's very little interest in both franchises because who wants to bother watching a brand new episode of The Simpsons or Family Guy, especially when you think about the fact that you have Disney in control of both franchises now. Seriously, they decide to sell both franchises to Disney rather than have an ending made for both of them? I mean, it would have been different if Disney, let's say, rebooted both franchises by starting a new series out of them, but seriously, they're the same exact series that have been running for years. Don't you think that's enough? Well, anyways, I feel like I've gone on a limb to explain a lot of things about The Simpsons and Family Guy, and Family Guy itself has a lot of great actors in there. Not just Seth himself, but you got Alex Borstein, who voices Lois, Mila Kunis, who voices Meg, and Seth Green, who voices Chris. There's also a variety of other actors as well, like Mike Henry, Patrick Warburton, James Woods, who actually voices himself in several episodes, until his untimely death comes by in his own manner in 2010s, and then there was Fewer, which I'd say is one of the best episodes they put together. A classic whodunit, sort of like what would eventually be for films like Knives Out. You know, both Family Guy and Knives Out are probably the best modern takes of the classic whodunit storyline. You know? And there's a lot of other episodes I could talk about just as well, but I feel like I will be taking a lot of time away from what I've already been discussing here. So, that's pretty much it for today. I've talked a good amount of things about Family Guy, just like what I've done with The Simpsons. Between both of them, it's hard to choose which is better and whatnot. But in any other case, I'll be back tomorrow, once again with more stuff correlating to this series.